This portion of the CU podcast is brought to you by The Perfect Jean. I have received a few pairs of The Perfect Jean, and they're basically the unicorn of jeans. They fit great, look fantastic, and are so comfy, I sometimes forget I'm wearing pants. In case you didn't know, this is an ad, and The Perfect Jean told me to say this, but I would say the same thing regardless. They really do live up to the name.
Say goodbye to stiff cardboard denim and hello to comfort. These jeans fit like they were custom made, stretch like you wouldn't believe, and look fantastic. The fabric is as soft as a baby duck. Allegedly, I did not touch any baby ducks. The Perfect Jean also has a seriously massive range of sizes, with 6 fits from skinny to thick, waist sizes from 26 to 50, and lengths 26 to 38. So it doesn't matter if you're a short king, big daddy, or something in between, you can find the perfect fit for the body you're rocking. I did not think I was gonna like a stretchy jean, but here I am wearing these every single day.
I love these jeans. I got a few different colors, and I have a few different styles. They're comfortable. You can wear them wherever you want. Go shopping, go out to a bar, go to dinner. It's great. It's finally time to stop crushing your balls in uncomfortable jeans by going to theperfectjean.nyc. Our listeners get 15% off your first order, plus free shipping, free returns, and free exchanges when you use code CUPodcast15 at checkout. That's 15% off for new customers at theperfectjean.nyc with promo code CUPodcast15. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support the CU Podcast and tell them that we sent you. F your khakis and get the perfect jean.
Well, Sony's in the news again.
For great reasons, I'm sure.
Great reasons.
They have a new laptop coming out. They got a new great LED TV.
So two things have been in the news recently for them, and neither are great. So they announced the PlayStation 5 Pro, and it has seemed to confound and confuse quite a lot of people, and I think there's a few reasons for this. Number one, we are, and we've said this before, but I think we're truly there now. We are at diminishing with returns with what we are getting out of these upgrades. Yes, out of these upgrades. Maybe it's the screen I'm looking at the screenshots on, but they show screenshots. They really did show. They did a bunch of side by sides
And a video presentation.
Yes, right? But I'm looking at the stills.
Oh, stills, okay.
Yeah. And the side-by-side screenshots they've started memeing them all over the internet because it's really tough to see some of the differences here. I mean, you can if you look at it side by side, but when you're playing it, you're not going to notice this sort of thing. It's just the sort of stuff that is like, we're getting more detail on wood paneling.
I'm looking at one. It says performance. It's a shot of a tower.
Yep, I'm looking at the same one.
And I'm looking at the two. And if I'm like 6 feet back, I would not be able to tell the difference. The only thing even looking at and comparing the two pictures is like the highlights magazines in the waiting room of the dentist's office.
The windows of the tower look different.
The windows have a more realistic glare and lighting refraction.
Yep.
And the sign is clear. The words on the sign.
Yep.
That's it.
That's it.
I'm sure people can pixel fuck the rest of it and look at it, but there's really not significant difference.
And I understand that there are people who are super into this, but it's getting to the point now where I don't know who this is for, because here's the next part that I think is confusing people. It's fucking $700. It's a $700 console.
USD, yeah.
And the title of this Verge article that I'm referencing here, says it, and it's true. The era of Sony subsidizing console hardware is coming to an end. We are no longer seeing system makers, because that was always the general wisdom.
Yeah, they're going to sell them at a loss.
You sell the hardware at a loss to make it up for it with games
and controllers and memory cards and shit.
But if I have to sit here and think, I don't. The reason why is because I don't think they're making the same amount of money off of these games and controllers anymore. And here's a couple reasons why I think that's true. There are just far less games being released overall because these studios are spending so much money in so many years on these AAA games that we don't have like what we had in the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 era, where you had AAA games, but you had AA games, you had single A games, you had multiple teams at companies doing all of these different things at once, and, you know, juggling 5 or 6 projects at a time and putting out multiple games that were all being released for that same price. They could recoup their money more. The other thing is controllers have gotten more expensive. And so many of these games are no longer played multiplayer in the same room. It, you know, all the way up until probably the PlayStation 4 era, I think one of anyone's first purchases when buying a console would be a second controller to go with it. So you can play with your brother, your friend, you know, someone you know, because, you know, there's fighting games and split screen racing games and, you know, all sorts of these other 2-player games, whereas now, the controllers are too expensive to just drop $60 to $80 on a second one that you might only use once in a while. But 2, there's just not that many games that require console owners to own multiple controllers anymore.
That's interesting.
So they're not making as much money off of these things, I think, as they used to. Now, granted, they're making money off of games with licensing and stuff like that to the console, but Sony is also putting out less games. Microsoft, they're putting out less games, but they're spending all sorts of fucking money on the games that they're putting out.
Sony's bread and butter also for decades, for not just for game consoles, was their bullshit proprietary memory that only worked on their devices that cost them nothing to make.
But that hasn't been the case since the PS3. So we've had 3 consoles where that's no longer the issue.
But that plays into it because you have to buy their memory cards, even on their music devices. Remember that old bullshit memory things. So that avenue of revenue is gone. And then one of the most important thing that happened in the pandemic was through PlayStation Plus and the Game Pass from Microsoft. They cannibalized their own business. They devalued their own games.
Yep.
Why the hell would I go out, Ian, and spend? We'll just say I have a budget for 6 new games a year. Average person, maybe $360, $380. Why the fuck would I do that? I'll get the $10 a month service and pay $120 and I'll be fine.
Right.
And so they're not recouping. So they're not selling games and making money off them. They're also not recouping their money on the R&D on the games they're coming out with. So they're killing themselves on both ends.
Yep.
The same thing has happened with streaming services for Netflix and everything else. You devalue your own entertainment and work for short-term games and you destroy it long-term.
Yep.
So that all plays into. So like you said, they can't afford to take a $100, $200 loss per console anymore because they're not making it back like they used to.
Right. So
what do you get?
So it's expensive. You get a marginal upgrade in graphics. And I think the other thing that took a lot of wind out of people's sails here is there were people who I think have been waiting for a price drop or something to come along with the PlayStation 5.
Okay.
And that almost always happens. Almost every generation, there is a price drop for the console about halfway through the generation.
We're like 3.5 years into this, right?
Yes. We still don't have a price drop on any of the Sony consoles. None.
Different world now.
I believe if I'm not mistaken, the original is still 500. Then there's the Slim. There's the Slim, which I mean, kind of released under the radar, and most people don't know about, which I think is 550 to 600.
500 at Walmart right now for the Slim with the disc console.
Okay, so I think that's the replacement of the original. So there has not been a console yet that they've released that drops the price. It started at 500. The Slim is 500. And this is 700.
And why can't they drop the prices? Because these are graphical horses.
Yep.
And they have to have the latest and greatest graphical GPU in there. And there's a lot more competition now, not just because of crypto and NFT bullshit, but GPUs are getting more expensive the past 5, 6, 7 years. And that's what people want. You got to have the best graphics. You know, so Microsoft needs all these GPUs. Sony needs them. And that's what happens. They can't take a loss on them because they have to buy these. They have to get these basically the same shit you're going to get in your computer. They're going to put in these consoles.
Oh, so and on top of this, the thing that makes it even stupider is that's with no disk drive. There's no disk drive on the fucking system. They are charging you. They have the fucking balls to charge you $80 for the disk drive on the side. So if
That's
you have
like-
disc-based games that you want to play and you happen to be the person who wants to upgrade, well, if you're the person who wants to upgrade and you've got disc-based games, you've probably just got the money lying around and another $80 isn't the end of the world. But we're talking almost $800 then for this console.
And that's how they're going to make their margin, because that's like a $10 disc drive they'll sell you at $80.
And
that's how they'll do it.
And
and people will buy them because people, rightfully so, want to have a physical media options.
I'm not
that is
crazy tech savvy when it comes to computers, but at $800,
that's ridiculous.
Well, at $800,
that's
you could be building building a computer that would play your games reasonably well.
That's probably a mid-level PC for gaming, probably 800.
At that point, if you're at 800, if you want to buy that drive, round up to 1,000, and you can make yourself something nice that you can use for far more than video games.
Yeah. So now we're at this is the.
It's a centerpiece of your home in terms of what you can do on a computer.
This is crossing the Rubicon of the advantages of having. There's still advantages of having a console. You don't have to worry about configuring it that much, or you can bring it to your friends. We all know that. But it used to be there was a technological and monetary advantage. You were getting ahead of the curve by buying a modern console that you were future-proofed, and you got a discount because they were taking a hit on the technology to get you to buy other things. That's gone. Now it's gone. Now it's like, now you're competing directly with PCs in terms of the price. So it's like, what am I doing now? What am I doing? Why am I doing this? I
don't see that. I was never vocal about it, but, back in like high school and, those days, I could have been accused of being a Sony fanboy. I've owned every Sony mainline console. I've owned the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the PSP, and the Vita. I have enjoyed all of those consoles. The 3 was, but I bought one about halfway through its lifespan, and I ended up liking it. I almost tried to force myself about a year ago to go out and buy a PS5 because I was like, well, I've got the money for it. I think it was like a Christmas bonus or something. And I was like, fuck it. Maybe I'll buy myself a PS5. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I just can't bring myself to do it. This fucking laptop does everything I need it to. It plays all the games that I would be playing on a PlayStation 5 and it plays them fine.
And you don't have to buy at least one, if not two, $80 controllers on top because you have a mouse and a keyboard or a cheap, even little USB that's.
I like the Xbox controller. So I paid
see
for
my
an
point.
Yes, but yeah.
You're not locked into this ecosystem.
And I don't have to pay $80 or $120 a year or whatever it is to access the internet I'm already fucking paying for.
I didn't even think about that. So now you're more expensive than some gaming PCs and laptops at that point. Now you're just more expensive.
And I can, I can
do other things.
I can mod.
Games.
I can, set the graphics how I want. It's I'm losing.
So you lost the monetary edge. That's gone. The technological edge has been gone for, 2 generations.
And the convenience edge is largely kind of gone, too.
That's the only thing that's left now is a convenience of, hey, you don't have to worry about upgrades or anything.
And it's getting slimmer and slimmer. Things like Steam and games now come with, that they can auto-detect settings.
Really?
Oh, yeah, there are definitely all sorts of games out there now. You can have it kind of auto-detect.
So you don't have to tinker with it.
Right, and then you tinker with it more after that if you want to, but I like nice graphics, and the games that I play on here look nice. Do they look as nice as they do on a PS5? Maybe not, but I'm playing Armored Core 6 at 60 frames per second.
Not that we're geniuses, but I think we predicted years ago this would be the last real console generation. Sure. I think it might have been the last one. The last generation might have been the real true console generation where it's you're getting a significant upgrade now.
I was, up until I got, the last laptop I had, which was that one, because you and I both got the same ones.
Yep.
That's when I started leaning a little bit. I started dabbling in PC. But, man, I'm telling you, I was the console booster my entire life. I loved the convenience of dropping a disc in a system, hitting play, and not having to worry about PC stuff. And I'm so far gone into PC gaming at this point that I don't think anything other than a Nintendo console for Nintendo reasons could get me to purchase it. It's kind of crazy to me to sit here and go, I'm not going to have this generation system from Xbox or Microsoft.
So we're looking at a console generation that, if it's this much money now with a marginal upgrade on a mid-level, what are we looking at in the future? We're looking at the end, where it's just we won't be able to sell you anything that's a significant upgrade unless it's $3,000 because we're getting so close to photorealism now anyway. We talked about this 10 years ago. What are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna max out what you, because when you're playing these games, like look like that difference, the difference in like the window shade, the light coming in. When you're playing these games, you're not stopping to look at all these things. You're just whizzing by.
Right.
You're not. These games aren't walk around and look at pretty things. You're racing. You're shooting at people. It's like at some point the graphics get almost lost in the gameplay, unless
it's why graphical tricks work.
Yes,
because our brain is focusing on something else, and graphical tricks are what work. And now they don't have to do the graphical tricks, but what's the real difference?
Yes. So meanwhile, Nintendo does their own thing, their own path, still focus on gameplay and fun. We'll sell you technology that's 7 years old, 8 years old, that's just good enough. And they're fine doing that because it works. Because they never bought into it. They only bought into it slightly with the GameCube, and they got burnt on it.
Well, and I'm not going to go off on a tangent with it, but the other thing that Nintendo did that no other company ever managed to do was create a stable of first-party characters that people genuinely and legitimately care about playing.
Yes, they created fun characters.
God of War is not selling. I mean, it's selling some systems, but I mean, God of War is not. People aren't going to be talking about God of War in 30 years in the same way that they talk about Nintendo characters. They're not going to be opening up a God of War theme park. And on top of that, these companies have gotten themselves into such a fucked position that they have to put their games on PC. So there's less of a reason to buy a Sony system, even though God of War is a Sony property and they might delay it. They're on Steam. Go buy your God of War games. Yeah. Final Fantasy 16, which 3 generations ago would have been an exclusive that would have moved systems. Wait 5 months, now it's on Steam and you can play it. There's just
because they have to make money somehow. They have to recoup their costs.
So moving on a little bit, but still on Sony, there was the news. This was a few weeks ago, so I'm not going to go crazy deep into it. But Concord was a game that was in development for Sony, and it was going to be a hero shooter similar to like Overwatch or Valorant, those kinds of games.
You have distinct characters with powers.
It's like a fighting game, but it's a team-based shooter. You've got different characters with different moves and different techniques that you play as. So you learn a character. It's not just everyone has the like Doom or Counter-Strike where everyone is on the same page.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't need to explain this to people. People know what this is. This was in development for 8 years.
So reportedly the budget was low, 8 figures. So you're looking at 9 figures. That's $100 million.
Yep. 8 years of work, and it came out in its beta. And its public beta. Open beta. It peaked at 2,388 concurrent players. Well, I guess the beta didn't go so well because on launch, the game capped out at under 700 concurrent players. That was its all-time best.
That was August 23rd it came out.
I believe a week later, the concurrent online player count on Steam was something like 63 players.
So,
that's abysmal.
This is a major release on your new console that you invest almost a decade in, it sounds like.
The janky Gundam fucking license game I'm playing online has more concurrent players than this ever did. That's nuts.
You expect this to sell, 1 million, 2 million copies in order to make a profit and be good, and you end up falling flat in your face. This was digital and physical release, by the way. And then they then announced, we're going to shut the servers down like less than 2 weeks in.
10 days. That's the kicker. I mean,
this is unprecedented in the history of gaming, I believe, that something like this has happened, where games have been shut down before, but not right after they release. And it's a game that cost $100 million. Imagine that. And you're recouping almost none of that. And you're not even giving yourself a chance to, because now we're just going to shut it off. You can't play even just bought it. They're refunding you if you bought this game. Refunding you right after it came out.
I mean, and we thought Anthem was bad. Anthem was the game that released, and then, I mean, they did shut it down for a while, and then they brought it back, but there was a roadmap. There's been silence on this since it came out, since this was shut down.
We've seen games fall flat at the start, like No Man's Sky, where it's this is disappointing, but they stayed around and grabbed a foothold and came back, and now they're darlings with all updates and releases. I have never I don't know how many heads rolled with this, but boy, some heads rolled with this. They had to have. Are you kidding me?
It's just.
Did they market research this? I guess not.
Well, here's the thing. It was in development for 8 years. So when they started this 8 years ago in 2016, there was, everyone wanted to jump out and make the Overwatch killer. So if this game hadn't taken 8 years in development, which absolutely no fucking hero shooter should have.
I was going to say the only games that usually take that long are like the GTA sort of type of games take 8 years to do.
And then, so 8 years later, the market is flooded. Overwatch 2 is out and is already kind of a niche game. Like, it's not over. The popularity of Overwatch peaked and it fell.
Sure.
And there's other games like this now that you can play. You can play, in addition to hero shooters, you can play the Fortnite. What was the Epic one that came out that's 3-on-3? I can't remember. It's kind of popular. Your options for these types of games are everywhere, and many of them, like Overwatch 2, if you wanted to play the kind of not the granddaddy, that would be Team Fortress 2, but they're free to play. They don't require you to buy a $60 game. And then
sorry, this is only $40.
$40, sorry.
But that even helped its cause.
No.
It wasn't even full price.
And then you look at it, and
oh, God.
the fucking art style in it is awful. It's bland. It's dreary.
There's a whole article about how ugly
the characters are because it was totally like a designed by committee. We're just going to, it's just going to be sci-fi slop.
It looks, the art style is nothing. The characters look like blah.
It's incredibly boring.
How do you get to that point where it's like, did they know? Okay, well, they probably knew we're not going to make our money back on this, but to then just cut it off at the knees and not even give a chance to even get, you know what I mean? Like, because you haven't at least put some money behind it to get, we're going to make half our money back eventually. They made nothing.
Yeah.
They just shit away, and I feel bad for the people that worked on it for 8 years.
Absolutely.
Some of them, I don't know if they even had any like revenue sharing on it. Maybe not because it's Sony,
I don't think that's ever really a thing.
But like, this was a major release. They came out with a limited edition controller for this game.
There's going to be a short.
Oh, really? I didn't see that.
No, we just talked about it. There's going to be a short on the Amazon series. That's
so the Amazon series that we talked about.
Secret Level.
Secret Level is an anthology series for the Love, Death, and Robot folks.
And we talked about that in the intro.
So they're doing an Armored Core episode, an Unreal Tournament episode, and they're doing an episode dedicated because Sony probably paid them money for a game that by the time the episode comes out would have been dead for months. When the show comes out in December, people will be laughing at that episode because they'll be like, this is an episode for a game that doesn't exist anymore. People are now trying to get hundreds of dollars for this limited edition controller. They're trying to scalp the physical game. They made so many of. You'll be able to find some game. They're coasters now. They're coasters a month into the game's release. It's unheard of. This may never happen again in the history of games.
Or unfortunately, we may see it happen more and more.
For something like this, I don't know. If they pulled the plug even before it came out, they would have saved money. I don't know if they realized how bad it would have been. How do you not know? That's what I mean about market research. Did you realize that, like, okay, we're not going to get that much market penetration because it's not the same size of the market as there was several years ago? How did this happen? People would have been thrown off of roofs, maybe in Japan, upon hearing this news. I have no idea. At the Sony headquarters, I have no idea. This is beyond catastrophic. That combined with the news of the console being exorbitantly expensive for not a real upgrade. I didn't see the video. I would have loved to see like the Twitch live reaction to this video to be like, great, we're $700 for what? For what? I just bought the console 2 years ago. Some of these people.
Yep.
Ridiculous.